It is incredibly difficult for most parents in the West to think about having a daughter engaged at 8 years old to a man who was then 18, or to have that engagement last 8 years and see your daughter married off at 15 to the same man who's now 28 years old. All of this against the will of the daughter. It's hard to wrap our heads around, and for most, we believe it's something that only happens in the tiniest villages and lands far away, lands that we don't quite understand. We tend to feel sad for the child for a moment and then turn back to our own lives where we think this doesn't happen. And we're wrong. Child marriage happens in nearly every country in the world, and not just to children from developing nations that tend to make the headlines. It happens across religions and across cultures. Naila Amin was just such a daughter. When she was 15, she was a schoolgirl who had been engaged at 8, and she was going to be married off to a man who was 13 years older than her. She would be forced to take part in two religious marriage ceremonies that she wanted no part of. Naila's father engaged her to her first cousin, who was living in Pakistan. It was the father's way of getting her first cousin into the USA. She refused to consummate her marriage, though, and ran away instead. She escaped to Islamabad, where she had an aunt. Unfortunately, her husband would find her there. Her own father had to be jailed to prevent him from shooting her dead in a dishonor killing. Her father dragged her out. Her husband actually dragged her out in front of her entire family, including her mother, who was distraught, and spent an hour or so beating her with electrical cords. And for the next 6 weeks, she was raped every night. A kind uncle helped her to contact social services in the United States, and she was able to start a new life, where she settled in Queens, New York. She found the adjustment to life in the United States, after all this happened, difficult. She didn't quite fit in and didn't know how to start. When she was younger, she was being bullied by some of her classmates, and she began to realize that she was, in fact, not like many other students. The other students hadn't been engaged at 8. They hadn't been forced to marry their cousin while on a family trip back to their home country of Pakistan. They hadn't been beaten, raped, and forced to become a wife. She didn't have anyone to talk to about this, no one to confide in, no one who would understand. This little girl was alone in all of this and trapped by the wants of her father. At 13, on that family trip, she had her first wedding. That would allow the father to begin the work to sponsor the husband to America. When she was 14, he made her sign her first set of paperwork to bring her husband to New Jersey. Because 14 was the legal age in New Jersey for one to be able to support a spouse. That's right, not Pakistan, New Jersey. In Massachusetts, the age was set at 11 to sponsor a spouse. Naila says that between 2007 and 2015, more than 5,500 cases of child wives sponsoring adult men were found in a study. She asked a legit question, one that we should all ask. Why does the United States allow for legal trafficking of young girls? If an American girl cannot be married off at 11 in Massachusetts, why is it that an American girl who is forced into a marriage with a foreign male can sponsor him as her spouse? Naila's life at home would become more tense after that first marriage ceremony. She would end up in foster care in 2004. Her father had been beating her, keeping her in the home, preventing her from even going to school, all because she didn't want to be married. They said she was just becoming too westernized. She ran away with a boyfriend. Her parents accused her of committing adultery. She struggled to adjust in foster care as well. I mean, who wouldn't? She ended up running away back to her parents and the only life she knew. They decided that they should all return to Pakistan until Naila became of age. It was a ruse to ensure the second marriage ceremony would happen. When the husband felt rejected by her refusal to consummate the marriage, he told her parents, making her feel ashamed. When she decided to run away, it was difficult. She was in a remote village in Pakistan where women were not to be outside without a male chaperone. She ran to a mud hut and begged the woman inside to help her. The woman's son fetched a horse and carriage and took her to the nearest city. She swapped scarves with the woman and managed to make her way to Islamabad. She wasn't able to get a hotel room, being a girl alone. She was asked by an uncle to go to her aunt's home in the city. She was picked up there by her husband, who screamed at her in the street. She thought she would be killed there and then. It would be that kind uncle who contacted authorities back in the States, and they set the wheels in motion to rescue Naila. That uncle probably saved her life. When her mother and sister returned to the U.S., the mother was arrested and charged with kidnapping. She could avoid prosecution, authorities said, if Naila was returned to America. Only a month later, consular officials arrived in her village to pick her up. They told the husband they simply needed to validate some paperwork for Naila, and with that ruse, whisked her away, put her on a plane, and sent her back to the States. Once back, her parents would tell her to say she was happily married and that she was well, but Naila, having gone through all of that, was having no more of it. She would tell the truth, even if it meant that she would not see her family again. She was met at the airport by officials who would protect her. She had some more struggles and care, but eventually she was placed in a good home. And now, Naila is a social worker, a mom, and an advocate. In New Jersey, well, it ended child marriage, the second state in the country to prohibit it. Naila also helped make child marriage illegal in New York and has a foundation aimed at supporting other survivors. As of 2021, 44 states continued to allow it. In Canada, no one under 18 can sponsor a spouse, and the spouse also has to be 18. Get it together, 44. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying these videos and want more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.